And one of the things that came out of those discussions was that it's not healthy for a school district to continue to whittle away at its resources and think that it's going to be able to continue to provide a quality education. So the board asked me to put together a proposal defining what a quality education might look like for the Chilton Public Schools. This has been a daunting task because other than that definition, I really haven't had a lot to go on. So I'm appreciative of the opportunity because believe me, I would much rather be talking about this to you tonight than I generally do in my January board meetings when we're talking about budget cuts. It's a great opportunity for us as a school district to begin to think positively, to look at forward movement. But I would caution you that this presentation should only be the beginning of a conversation that we need to have ongoing in this district. This is a vision that I've put together with some input from the staff. We did survey the staff in fall and got their input on various aspects of our district. What should we keep? What should we cut? What should we repurpose? But also from the administrative team as well. So again, this is just a very first beginning of what I hope to be an ongoing dialogue. So we begin with, as you know that I often do in presentations, with our mission statement. And I don't know if you noticed tonight, but we have finally put our mission and our vision statements up in this room so that they're there for us to see, because they are the statements that should ground our work. And we should say, this is what the community, and truly this is what the community decided is the mission of the school district. I led the group that wrote these statements, and so I'm quite proud of them, and I think that they still stand the test of time. So we begin with a mission statement. And I found this quote. Phil Schlechte is a gentleman who writes about educational issues, and I thought that in order to ground our work, before you can lead others, you must be clear about what it is you say you believe. So as we move forward, this is the vision statement of the school district. It's three-pronged. We want to be innovative so that our students have the skills necessary to succeed in a changing world. We want to demonstrate continuous improvement through a challenging educational program that accommodates student achievement, individual learning styles, and values personal dignity. And we want to develop interactive partnerships between the school district and the community that are beneficial for both. As we developed that mission and vision statement, then the administrative team, working with Judy Sargent from CESA 7, we put together what we call our student success model. This sort of is the visual for those mission and vision. In the center of that bullseye, if you will, are the 21st century learners, who are our students. What kinds of learning do they have to have in their environment in order to be successful? They not only have to have academic learning, but we have career learning going on for them. They have to be very technologically literate. And just as we were talking about in the previous action, we have to promote personal, social, and global learning for our students as well. This all then takes place in an environment that fosters professional development, has a strong and engaging curriculum, a positive culture and climate, that engaging instruction, and that promotes assessment that leads to further student achievement. And the yellow going around the outside then are our audience to this, parents and families, students, the school staff, the administration, and the school board, and last but not least, the global community, which can be at the local level, the state and the national level, and quite frankly now at the international level, as our students will have to compete in that kind of world. And all of this spins then on those prongs on the outside, instructional leadership, the mission and vision, it's data-driven, and we promote continuous improvement. Following that, the board might recall when they sat down one night with representatives from the WASB, and they wrote these belief statements. And we put these in our budget book every year. We believe that all students can learn at high levels, that they're entitled to a rigorous curriculum, that teacher effectiveness and expertise has a significant impact on student learning. We believe our financial and human resources must directly support that learning. And the success of every student is critical to the future of our schools, our community, our nation, and the global marketplace in which they will work. Quite often when I'm out in the community and I'm talking about the place in which our students are going to have to compete, my parents may have competed at the local level. As I graduated from high school, we were looking at our peers across the state. Students today are going to have to look at their peers across the nation and the world as they look to take their rightful place in this economy, this knowledge-based driven economy. So if we've established what we believe, I think it's important that we establish what we are required by state law to do. And this was interesting to me as I read through the input that the staff provided. Because, and at no fault to anyone, we often look at our own little corner of the world, but we don't see the larger scope. What is it we are required to do as a school district? Well, we need to, by Wisconsin state statute, schedule at least 180 days annually. Kindergarten must have 437 hours of direct pupil instruction. Grades 1 through 6, 1,050, and grades 7 through 12, 1,137. And we have to calculate this and send in a report annually to the state indicating that we are meeting these requirements. So sometimes when we adjust the schedule, or a couple years ago we had to make the high school day a little longer because too many snow days and we were short hours. This is the statute, and this is why we do those things, and these are the requirements that will help you. Next, I have for you graduation requirements for Chilton compared to the state. You can see that in English we meet the requirements, in math we meet them, in science we meet them, in social studies we exceed them by 1 credit, meet in health, meet in Phi-Ed. So the total required, we are 1 over currently in high school graduation requirements for Chilton students than the state is requiring. Now the board may recall that earlier this year you approved an additional credit in math. That will take place in the 13-14 school year. So this is data that talks about the 11-12 school year. So I want to make that clear to you. We suspect the state is going to increase the math requirement as well. We also suspect that the state is going to increase the science requirement. So high school graduation requirements are on the rise. Following that, and I'll try not to get too bogged down in the detail here, the Wisconsin State Statute 121.02 talks about specific content areas and what is required by school districts to provide. So I'll go through the first two. Regular instruction in reading and language arts means that instruction each week for the entire school term in sufficient frequency and length to achieve the objectives and allocation of instructional time identified in the curriculum plans. At the middle school level, a separate course in reading is not required. Reading is recommended to be integrated in the overall English language arts curriculum. In our middle school, we have a literacy block that is 90 minutes long that incorporates both reading and language arts together. Social studies also follows a similar description with regular instruction in grades K through 8, but it also goes a little bit further to say to include instruction in the social studies curriculum in the history, culture, and tribal sovereignty of the federally recognized American Indian tribes and bands located in this state in at least 2 grade levels and in at least 1 grade level in grades 9 through 12. So if you ever wonder why we're studying Wisconsin history and talking about the local Indian tribes that are indigenous to the state, this is why. Mathematics instruction and science instruction then follow that definition of regular instruction that was provided for you under reading and language arts. Then we get into more of the specialty areas, and we really need to kind of pay attention to the language here. And in these areas too, staff members didn't really know and really didn't understand, and I don't think for the most part community members necessarily do too. You know, why do we need art instruction for elementary kids, or what do we need that for middle school kids? Well, physical instruction in grades K through 6 shall be provided at least 3 times weekly and shall be conducted by or under the direction of a licensed physical education teacher. So in other words, a classroom teacher could deliver physical instruction to students in grades K through 6 if they were operating under a licensed physical education teacher, say for instance Mrs. Bartles. We provide our instruction in physical education K through 6 by licensed physical education teachers, because that time provides the special or the prep time then that our regular classroom teachers have, and some time in the day for planning. But in grades 7 through 12, all pupils in grades 7 through 12 shall participate in the instructional program of physical education must be taught, in this case, by a licensed ed teacher. Art is very similar. Art and design shall be provided for students in grades K through 6 by or under the direction of a licensed art teacher. And students are required to receive art and design instruction in grades K through 6. In grades 7 through 8, changes a little bit. It shall be provided for all pupils in grades 7 through 8 and shall be taught by a licensed art teacher. And it follows as well in grades 9 through 12 that this shall be available to pupils and shall be taught by a licensed art teacher. Moving forward in music, again, very similar structure. K through 6 shall be performed by or under the direction of a licensed music teacher. They are required to receive music instruction. 7 through 8 shall be taught by a licensed music teacher. And in 9 through 12, it shall be available to them and taught by a licensed music teacher. Music instruction includes general music, vocal music, and instrumental music, and shall be available to all pupils in grades 7 through 12 and shall be taught by a licensed music teacher. At least one course in each area must be available to all grades 7 through 12 students in each grade. So people wondering why we have and why we offer what we do, this, I think, provides some background for that. So, with our beliefs established and our requirements identified, what are our needs in order to deliver a quality education in the school district of Chilton? And first and foremost, without question, quality education has to be delivered by a highly competent and well-trained staff at every level of the organization. And in this case, I use the term staff. I'm not using the term teacher. I'm using all staff, from clerical staff to our food service staff to our maintenance staff to our administrative staff. They must be well trained and very competent if you want to deliver a quality education. I think that goes without saying. And that statement, I think, is directly related back to one of your belief statements that we saw earlier, and that is, we believe that teacher effectiveness and expertise has a significant impact on student learning. Well-trained staff translates to having an impact on student learning and student achievement. And in this case, I would believe that the term here, teacher, was intended to be used very broadly, not necessarily if you're licensed to be a teacher. I happen to believe that all adults that work with our students one-to-one or in small groups teach our students in the course of a day and in the course of providing extracurriculars, etc. So all staff, their expertise can have that impact on student learning. I've been asked to define an achievement goal for the district that is understandable and easily identified by the community, so they can say, yeah, I got it. And so I took a look at the school report cards that came out this fall. You might recall they look something like this. Put them on our website. We believe, the administrative team and I believe, that all schools within the Chilton School District will exceed expectations on the State of Wisconsin school report card. There are various gradations on the school report cards. Those areas are: a school can fail to meet expectation, a school can meet few expectations, a school can meet expectations, a school can exceed expectations, and a school can significantly exceed expectations. We believe that these schools in this district should exceed expectations. I didn't put significantly exceeds, but either one of those categories I think is where the students in this school district should be performing. Based on the report card that we had that came out this fall, Chilton Elementary School is exceeding expectations. Chilton Middle and Chilton High School are meeting expectations according to the criteria set forth by the State of Wisconsin. But there are ranges for these accountability ratings. And the high school and the middle school are very close to exceeding expectations. So we believe this is a reach goal for us, but we believe that it is one that is attainable, and we believe that it is one that we should sustain as a sign of quality for the school district. So what does that mean? It's good to say that, but there's a fair amount of data and a fair amount of activity that needs to come behind that in order to have that happen. We believe that every student at Chilton High School should graduate. We believe that we should have a focus on attendance rates, and that 93% of Chilton High School students will be in attendance for 170 days or more of the school year, and less than 5% of Chilton High School students will be considered habitual truants. Right now, families can excuse their students based on personal family needs for up to 10 days in a given school year. So that is why we listed that students will be in attendance for 170 days. And a habitual student, as defined by the State of Wisconsin and state statute, is a student who is absent from school without an acceptable excuse, so it would be beyond the 10 days that parents could excuse their child, for part or all of 5 or more days on which school is being held during the semester. So we want less than 5% of our students to be habitually truant, and we want 93% of our students to be in attendance for 170 days or more. If our students are not here, we cannot educate them, and this is an important goal for us.
What are those numbers right now?
Mr. Brightlow?
I believe it's, I think it's 80%, and I think it's 2% or 2.5%.
Habitually truant?
Yeah, we had reframed it a different way prior to this publication. I believe that's what it works out to be, without having the numbers here in front of me.
And I didn't put the benchmarks in here, but we can get that data back to the board.
Yeah.
We believe that participation in extracurricular activities is important. Studies have shown that students that are engaged in school in extracurricular activities are generally very successful in their academic endeavors as well. They learn about time management skills, they learn to fulfill their leadership abilities, they learn to work in teams. And so we think that this is something that we should start tracking. How many of our students are participating in extracurricular activities? And the high school has set up a goal that 60% of all high school students will participate in some form of extracurricular activities. Right now, the current benchmark is 52.
And we even get used to your class on that benchmark. You know, they're very involved. So 60% is still a reach.
We believe that all Chilton High School students should be at grade level or above in reading and math achievement. All students should be at their grade level or above in reading and math achievement as defined, I didn't put that in here, but as defined by appropriate assessments for that level. And that will be determined by the building leadership plans that the building leadership teams develop and bring forward to you each year. We also want 50% of students graduating from Chilton High School to have either AP coursework, articulated or transcripted credit, apprenticeship or industry certification on their transcript when they graduate. These are important goals. These are important milestones that we would like to start reaching with our students, and we want to start benchmarking that and looking at how many of our students are attaining this. Mr. Brightlow, which I think most people know what AP coursework is. We just had a pretty big approval of additional AP courses at the last board meeting, but can you define articulated and transcripted credit?
Yeah. Articulated credit is credit that is taught by a high school teacher, and the credits would apply, for example, if we have an English course that is articulated with University of Wisconsin Green Bay. If a student was to go to Green Bay, the University of Wisconsin Green Bay, those credits would be applied for that class as they taken it in high school. Transcripted credit is if any course that was transcripted, you would be given an actual transcript from a university saying that that course was taught at a college level and it would be applied as college credits. So they're far more transferable than articulated courses. Articulated courses, the main downfall of that is most of the larger, more rigorous universities, they apply articulated credit towards just general electives instead of the courses for which they were intended. Transcripted credit carries far more weight because the rigor is said to be at the college level. It uses a college textbook. Assessments are at the college level. So there's a bit of a benefit to both, and we need to be able to continue to increase those opportunities for our students.
I think you understand apprenticeship opportunities. There are also high schools around the state in their tech ed departments that are working on industry certification, that students are graduating at the high school level already with a jump start on some industry certifications that can be earned at the technical college level.
I guess I would add one more thing. You touched on how the AP courses, we had an AP language course that you approved in December, and preliminary numbers for registration, you have 70 students out of the junior class, 70 out of 88 registering for that class. It's just preliminary, they haven't officially done it, but it's in their 4-year plan. So, it's good.
Moving on then, we want every student at Chilton High School on track to graduate. That's the purpose of the Tiger Talks that begin as early as the middle school level, and the career development planning that we have with our high schools that carries on through our career counseling. Our goal again is 100% graduation rate. We want our high school to be the successful combination of a K-12 educational experience, preparing students for a smooth transition into their post-secondary life, which may be an academic education. It could be work or military experiences, and we want them to feel as though they were college and or career ready when they left our high school. We want to begin to erase the lines between high school and post-secondary academic endeavors. That is the reason for the increase in tracking of AP coursework, transcripted, etc. And so we want to increase our AP courses to have 1 to 2 AP courses in each of the 4 core academic departments. We talked about that last month. We want to increase opportunities in transcripted credit, in job shadowing opportunities, in apprenticeships, and we want to explore opportunities as possible in our tech ed department for certification attainment. We believe that in this district, maintaining a well-developed and balanced extracurricular program is important to meet the diverse interests and talents of all students, because this develops leadership, teamwork, volunteerism, and it also helps for them to develop their specific academic as well as athletic talents. And we believe that in a quality education program, the academic program and the extracurricular program come together to really help form the whole student, so that when they leave us, They have a wide variety of experiences that can send them on their way. I didn't feel that it would be appropriate if we didn't present to you something on a quality program without talking about block scheduling. When this came into being in the school district, 12 years ago now probably, there was a fair amount of controversy about it. And I would say that based on the input from the staff, there still is folks that believe in it wholeheartedly, and there are those that think that we should return to a more traditional 7 or 8 period day. So it really is kind of split. This happens to be, I would say, my belief, and I think Mr. Brightlow would feel similarly, that we should at this time maintain the current block schedule, but also have a consistent annual review and revision process to ensure that this schedule meets the needs of Chilton High School students. Why do we believe that this is a good schedule and one that we should maintain? It allows for a wide variety of programming opportunities for students to take advantage of. It allows students to focus on a smaller number of topics through a specific timeline in greater depth. And we also believe that the schedule allows for students to retake courses while still remaining on track to graduate. And I think those are important pieces that at this time we think this is part of a quality education that provides a wide variety of opportunities for students. I'm not going to tell you that this is not costly. We believe that it does cost more to run a schedule of this nature than it would a 7 or 8 period day. We had Dr. Shade run that schedule last year. I think there would be some cost savings, but I'm not convinced that the cost savings would outweigh the loss of programming variety that we could offer to our students. But that is certainly a topic that could continue to be explored. That's why I say that it needs to be continually reviewed. As we move on to the middle school then, you'll see very similar goals here. In order for Chilton Middle School to be a school that exceeds expectations on the state report card, we believe that 93% of our students should be in attendance 170 days or more. The middle school has set a benchmark of 86% of their students participating in extracurricular activities. The current benchmark at the middle school is 85, which is really exceedingly high, and I think something to be incredibly proud of, that we are connecting that many students to their school in other outside activities at a time when you can really seriously begin to lose students in school. That's an important statistic and one I think we should feel very proud of. We also believe that math and reading achievement should be at or above grade level at Chilton Middle School. Again, to be determined by assessments appropriate at that level. You've heard us talk a bit about the middle school concept, and I believe that in order to provide a quality education in this school district, that concept should be maintained. And why? And this comes directly from the staff. Students between the ages of 10 and 14 are not young children, but they're also not young adults. Their developmental needs are different, and their success is more likely if they're grouped and taught by professionals that understand these unique developmental needs. The middle school team concept allows for better communication between and among staff, which we believe benefits students. We believe the size of our school and the middle school schedule allows the building principal and the school counselor to be very involved in students' daily life. And the middle school schedule allows for certified reading professionals to teach reading and language arts at all grade levels. That is something that we brought back last school year by hiring. We had an opportunity through some retirements to bring back certified reading teachers at the middle school level, teaching that 90-minute block. And I'm very personally proud that we were able to do that, and thankful to the board for providing that resource. We need to continue to maintain the 4 core certified instructors at each grade level in reading, language arts, math, science, and social studies. Right now we have certified instructors at each grade level in each of those 4 cores. That is how the students are divided then according to their homeroom and how they move throughout the day. And we believe that maintaining that is very important. We would like to consider adding a supportive math teacher at the middle school level. And we believe that we also need to maintain a well-developed and balanced extracurricular program for middle school students. This is a period of exploration and adventure for students as they begin to investigate those areas of interest and talent to them that they may further explore as they move into high school. But middle school is really that time when they begin to really let loose and try different things, and a quality education would provide that opportunity. So I'm very grateful that, for example, tonight, 6th grade, now middle school, we have, what did we add? The swimming and the cross country as opportunities that, again, opens more doors and more possibilities for students. Moving on to the elementary school then, keeping our goals consistent. You see again the 93% attendance rate, and all Chilton Elementary students should be at grade level or above in reading and math achievement. At the elementary school, we need to maintain the smaller class sizes. Right now in K1, our class sizes are 22 to 23. They're 19 in grades 2 and 3 and 21 in grades 4. So we have 4 classes at each grade level right now. We couldn't put another class in anymore unless we put one out in the parking lot. We have 4K, 4 first, 4 second, and so on. So we'd like to maintain that structure in order to keep those class sizes low.
Are you saying that these are low, or you would like them lower?
I think those are appropriately low now. But you can see the kindergarten numbers, they can fluctuate with the class coming in.
K1, those are high numbers for K1. I would rather have those 17 or 18 if you're asking. But like Dr. Martin said, we don't have a physical space for another. In K1 this year, also supported by parapros, we have their time during the literacy blocks, and there aren't yet. So there is another 7 months.
I'm glad that you're feeling comfortable to ask questions, and I would say the same for folks in the audience. Please feel free to interrupt, ask questions. I'm more than happy to answer as we go along. We have a supportive math teacher at the elementary school, and we have supportive reading teachers, and we think it's important to maintain them and not lose those resources. We also think that it's very important to continue to build the background knowledge of our youngest learners through a wide variety of resources and materials, through books, through technology, through school plays, concerts, activities, field trips, etc. In my former life, before I was an administrator, I was a teacher, and during that time, I had the opportunity to be an item writer for the 3rd grade reading test, which was a test some of you might recall that was given across all Wisconsin schools. And there was, before every reading passage, there would be questions about the passage before the student actually read it. If it was a story about farms, there'd be questions asking about farm animals or about harvesting or about farms, to get at what the student's background knowledge was before they attacked the reading piece. And there's a very strong correlation between high achievement and having a strong background knowledge. As they talk about when students develop and build their knowledge, they take in new information, but they build what they call building schema. They take that new knowledge and they attach it to something they already know so they can build and extend their learning. That's why these opportunities and these experiences are so important for our earliest learners. In fact, I remember when I was working on that writing team, we used to say, maybe we ought to just throw out the curriculum and take kids on field trips all day long, because it does build that background knowledge for them and give them a rich beginning for more knowledge to come in. We also need to continue a strong emphasis on the foundational development of good citizenship. Every year, Chilton Elementary School has a theme. I think this year, Mrs. Schuster, your theme is crazy about learning or wild about learning?
Wild about Chilton Pride, and our huge focus is respect.
So as these skills are taught in this elementary setting, in terms of what that means like for your classmates in your school, That carries on then to the Tiger values that Mr. Apple and his team promote at the middle school, and then certainly the expectations that we have at the high school as well. So these foundational skills are extremely important as we build toward a quality educational program in our district. District-wide resources. You have already made a commitment to, for the current time, maintaining an administration of 3 building principals, a business manager, and a superintendent. And we provide, we believe, leadership to the school district, management on a day-to-day basis, accountability for the goals that are set forth tonight and in other settings as well, and quite frankly, safety in our schools. We're the first persons that are there at the door or they're on the phone if there are issues or concerns. In technology, we need to maintain and continually upgrade our technology infrastructure. And for the most part, we have stayed very current with this, and we're very proud of the investments that the district has made. But this is a tiger that seems to have a never-ending appetite. If you let this slide, it's like building maintenance. Once it goes, it's very difficult to bring it back. We do feel that we need more support in hardware and software implementation and integration into our curriculum. Our current staffing is stretched very thin, and it may be possible to address this through reallocation of outsourcing monies as well as reassignment of some existing staff. In library media, we recommend that we maintain the 2 current library media specialists, but perhaps utilize their services differently. I've had some very preliminary conversations with our 2 library media specialists to say, what would it be like if you didn't each own your own library, but that the 2 of you worked and provided library services to the 2 facilities that we have in the district, utilizing the strengths that you have? What could be done differently? What could be not done any longer? What could be added? So we're having some initial discussions about that. I don't know if that's possible, but I think that those are the kinds of conversations that we need to have if we want to look at utilizing the staff we have in different and more innovative ways. We think that we need to maintain a counselor at each building level. These are the services that these folks currently provide. One-to-one counseling with specific students. They provide small group counseling, classroom instruction, their support for human services, not only within the district, but to social services outside of the district. There are crisis team resources in the event that we would have a disaster or a crisis in any one of our schools. They would be at the head of those teams. They provide structure and student scheduling, particularly at the middle and the high school level. They give career development in the form of the Tiger Talks at middle school and the high school. And there are school assessment coordinators. When the state assessment comes in, I serve as the district assessment coordinator, but then they handle the coordination of those assessments at the building level. A very important note that I'd like you to see here, with the increase in poverty levels among families sending their children to the Chilton Public Schools, our free and reduced lunch status is currently at about 31%. Students are presenting increasingly more academic, social, and emotional needs, and counselor support in helping to meet these needs is critical. If we cannot meet the basic needs of our students, it becomes that much more challenging to be able to educate them academically. Today, Mr. Apple and I had an opportunity to sit down with the mayor and the city planner and the city clerk to talk about our concern about the rising poverty levels in our community. This 31% represents district-wide. At Chilton Elementary, it's about 34%, which is probably a better indicator of where that's at. At middle and high school levels, sometimes families don't sign up for free and reduced lunch. High school kids will pay for their own lunch. So 30 to 34% is probably a pretty good indication of the level of poverty. That's 1 in every 3 students needs some form of support in our school district economically. Mr. Apple, what did you tell them when you came to the district that percentage was?
In 1995, it was 7%.
So it is a concern of ours as it continues to grow like it does in many school districts across the state. and requires a different form of teaching and, quite frankly, a different level of support in order for these children to be successful. Special education is an area that in the survey from the staff, they felt that this is an area that we have cut dramatically. That was kind of the overall feeling. But quite frankly, this is related, the staffing in this area is related to individual needs of students as dictated in their IEP plans. And these staffing levels continue to rise and fall as student needs dictate. And we envision that that staffing pattern will continue. This is an up and down kind of a staffing scenario, and it's completely based on the needs of students. Clerical reductions have already been implemented in earlier budget reduction processes across the district. We believe we have taken those as low as we possibly can, and we have stretched people so that they are still effective. But they're very busy folk, and we just don't know how we could take that staffing any lower. We need to maintain our current levels of maintenance and housekeeping staff. These folks have also taken not only reductions in staff, but reductions in days and hours. And according to Mr. Cupp, we need to consider bringing back some of the summer employees that we used to employ. We used to employ about 6 or 7 summer students. Last summer we employed 1. Really scaled that department back and need to look at bringing some more back in order to keep up with the maintenance of the district through the summer months. Looking ahead, I believe it's time for the school district to begin discussions once again about bringing in a police school liaison officer. Prior to my coming here, there was one in the district part-time, and that position was cut. We are recommending at this time the addition of a full-time PSLO officer in our schools. This would be a full-time position for the 180-day school year calendar. When students are in attendance, the officer would be working. This could be funded out of the community fund, which is Fund 80, which is outside of the revenue limits. And if funded in this way, we would share this resource with Chilton Catholic School, which we have had earlier discussions about. At one time, Dr. Shea and Mr. Sanabin and I, probably 2 years ago, went to speak to Chief Seipel about bringing some form of a PSLO officer back. And at that time, we talked about using Fund 80. If you use Fund 80, it has to be community-wide. And so I did connect with Liz Rollman, principal of Chilton Catholic, and she indicated that she would be in support of that at that time, and that would be welcoming of this individual to work in their schools as well, to the extent that it is appropriate and possible in their schedule. Given, Watson?
What would be the function of that officer?
Well, we would have to sit down and define that more carefully. We would look for the officer to not only develop relationships with students, but perhaps do some in-class presentations. We want that officer to be in all 3, move around to all 3 facilities here, as well as Chilton Catholic. We believe that since we haven't had a PSLO officer, we have lost our connection administratively with, I wouldn't say police services, but sometimes these families are involved in the human services, services in the county, and we're not always privy to knowing and being able to help them because agencies don't talk real well with one another. The PSLO officer was a great bridge for that when he was here. So there could be, we would have to write up a more specific job description, but we think it's time for this position to be brought back. I will tell you that the incidences that occurred very recently in Connecticut have all of us concerned, have all of us on heightened awareness. And people in the community, I had a gentleman in the community, and Randy, I think you'll know who I'm talking about, who came up to me at a swimming meet a couple weeks ago, and he said, I feel sorry for you people. You're sitting ducks out there. We feel very vulnerable. We believe we have safe schools, but I cannot tell people in this community that what happened in Connecticut cannot happen here. I cannot tell you that bringing a PSLO officer will stop that, but I think that it could help us in being a strong deterrent. I found this proverb, and I thought it appropriate to kind of put here. One generation plants the trees and another gets the shade. When this facility was built, it was built with the capabilities of almost a Fort Knox. As we are looking at what can we do to heighten our security in our schools, Mr. Brian Bartle and Russ in the back there, and Dave Endress have gone around looking at the technology that's in this building and over at the elementary middle school. This building was built with greater security capabilities than we are currently employing. And so to add on to that, they have planted the tree, and we have gained a lot of shade. But it may be time for us to take that to another level. And that's something that we'll be talking about in a building and grounds discussion about what are the next steps that we need to take as a school district to ensure that we have a safe environment for students and staff and community. We don't want to create a prison here, but on the other hand, we want to do everything we possibly can to make sure that this is a safe environment. And that may involve inconveniencing some people. As Austin said, kids are getting in and out rather quickly in the back now by the back door. Do we need to do something to improve that? Should we have students coming in through the front entrance, having to present a pass? They'd have to walk around. That's certainly going to be an inconvenience. We'll have to look at some of those things for what that trade-off is and safety and security in our schools. Another thing that I think that we need to consider, perhaps not today or maybe tomorrow, but we've discussed this administratively, that we would like to consider expanding foreign language options at all levels, elementary, middle, and high school, in our school district. You've asked us to define what we think would provide a quality program, and we think this would help. There are many reasons for this, but primarily, if we want students to be prepared for a global marketplace, which is in the belief statements, and a global society, which is in the mission statement, they need to develop a greater understanding and appreciation of diverse cultures, languages, and customs. And to the extent that we can manufacture that and do that for our students, we think that we will be providing them with those skills necessary to leave us and be more productive. Very recently in the local newspaper, actually it was the Appleton paper. If you move on to the next slide, Mrs. Law. It wasn't in the USA Today paper, but they showed this, and I thought it was very interesting. The USA Today has what's called a diversity index. This index measures the probability that two people chosen randomly are of different races or ethnicities in the United States. The index ranges from 0 to 100, from 0 to low density to 100 to high density, and they base this on U.S. Census data. So the index has risen from 40 in 1990 to 55 in 2010. We are at a tipping point. We are at a diversity tipping point in America. And very quickly, the Caucasian race, quite frankly, will not be the predominant race in America. And we need to do what we can in this community to provide opportunities for our students to embrace that diversity as they move on. 21st century classrooms are modeling the practice of the 21st century workforce. And this is a quote that I found in an Ed Leadership magazine. The 4 C's of critical thinking, communication, collaboration, and creativity, in combination with self-direction and global understanding, are 6 skills that make for an in-demand employee. And so as we look at what are we doing to erase those lines between a high school experience and that next step for our students, we need to be developing those skills in our school district, providing opportunities for our students to be self-directed and to have a greater sense of global understanding. So what do we need in order to accomplish these goals and in order to provide a high-quality educational program to Chilton students? Well, quite frankly, we need community support And that support needs to come in two ways. One, in financial support, as the board challenged me with coming up with this definition of a quality education. I said we're only beginning the conversation tonight. We take this out to the community and say, do you agree? Do you believe these are the components of a quality education? If not, let's talk about it. If there's more that we need to add, let's talk about that too. But at some point, this needs to be financially supported by the community. Either the community agrees and buys into this and supports it with their dollars, through their tax dollars or through referendum dollars, but that's what it will take. We also need moral support, quite frankly. We need this community to continue to support education, to understand its importance, to understand the mission that we're trying to accomplish here with the students of this community, and to understand that in order for students to be successful, they must continue with some form of education when they leave high school. To graduate with a high school education and to think that you will be able to support a family is no longer possible. Continuing education is really the way of the world today. So we need to have a continued emphasis on critical thinking. Ourselves as a school district, we need to continue to communicate that mission and this vision. We need to collaborate not only amongst ourselves as a school community, with our board, but also with the larger community as well. And we need to be creative in looking for ways in which we can do things differently, let go of some things we've always done, and take on new challenges as well. So in closing, we only get one chance to prepare our children for a future that we can't predict. What will we do with that chance in the Chilton Public School District? That is ultimately the question that we are faced with at this juncture in the school district. So I'll stop and entertain any other additional questions. The administration and I have had, we attended Mrs. Lau and I attended the Wisconsin School Board Convention last week, and that's always a great opportunity to hear what other districts are doing and to think about how you can bring some of those ideas back to your own school district. And in conversations with the admin team as late as this morning, talked about how do we, there's about 10, 15 folks here tonight. This is a message, again, it needs to be carried out to the greater community and either supported or not supported. And if it's not supported, then this community needs to be prepared for less than a quality education for their students. How do we continue the conversation? We have had a number of opportunities where we have asked the community for input, but we don't believe that it has been active input. We have sent out surveys. We've had the SWOT analysis that happened. We had the ad hoc committee that presented some recommendations. But we think that it might be time for what some school districts are calling an educational summit, where you send out invitations to your community. You open it up to anyone, but you send out invitations to your community members to say, we're going to hold 2 to 3 meetings where we want to provide you with some foundational knowledge, perhaps Mrs. Lau's tabletop experience about how schools are funded, and give people a greater understanding of what that is like, and then share information about this quality vision that we have and what it might take to fund this moving forward, and then kind of put that to that group and have that group either say to the board, we think it's time for a referendum, or we think you need to continue cutting, and give some direction to you as a board. Either way, they can serve as good emissaries to go out into the larger community and say, we need this, or we need to take it in another direction. But clearly, I don't have a dollar amount attached here. If you want a quality educational program, it's going to take what we currently have and then some. And we understand that we can't add and then some tomorrow. We have to be creative. We have to look at ways to repurpose, to reallocate. But in some cases, you just can't. And we may need to add. But those are decisions that will come up, as they have come up always. Like you added AP courses. You added having 4 core reading teachers at the middle school. You added having 4 core 4 classes at each grade level at the elementary school. You added a 4th grade classroom just this year. So as those decisions come up, we make adjustments in the budget accordingly. But the bottom line is, it's going to take what we are doing now and more as we move into the future if we want to provide a quality education.
Any questions for Dr. Martin?
Well, very well.